Say what you want, how you want, whatever you want. I got special guests on today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
What is up, TJ? Thanks for having me. I am Danny Bennett. Cover the Lions. Longtime Lions fan. I own owner of Lions on Tap. Cover the Detroit Lions. Also, I cover the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for USA Today for the Buckswire website. And yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me, man. On this Super Bowl Sunday edition.
Exactly. So Danny, if you don't know, I like to give my guests 5-10 minute ether second to go off about anything happening in sports. So anything you want to get on your chest, anybody you not liking, anything.
The Chiefs. I'm tired, man. Like I don't want to come off like a hater, right? Like I feel like it's hard. I don't remember who said this. It might have been like Will Compton or something, but it was like it's hard. It's hard to appreciate the greatness of the Kansas City Chiefs when you have all of these like asterisks next to their games, right? Where it's like, cool, they're going for a three-peat. Like that's greatness, but like. When you've got all of these calls that could go either which way, and every single time they go in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs is hard. It's really, it's hard. You know, like in my opinion, it's not like a LeBron James thing where like people just want to hate on LeBron James because like that's the cool thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like he's not getting like LeBron's not getting all of these favorable calls. You know what I mean? It's like every single time. Right, yeah. And it's like with Kansas City is every single time is could this be OPI? Could it be DPI? And it's like it's always in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs, which continues to build that narrative. Like it's ridiculous to me that Roger Goodell every year at the press conference during Super Bowl weekend has to answer a question about the refs favoring the Kansas City Chiefs. Like that should tell you something because you didn't have that. Like we didn't have that when the Patriots were on their dynasty run because the Patriots were just loading up their roster all the time. They were like New York Yankees style. Now we did have like Deflategate and we did have that kind of stuff, but like we didn't have it to the extent that we have it now. Right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
We had it to an extent, but then you looked at like the roster of the New England Patriots, and you're like, well, shit, like they got Randy Moss, they've got Rob Gronkowski, they've got like some of the goats at their positions. Like outside of Patrick Mahomes, who's a great quarterback, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, like that's undeniable. One of the greatest tight ends of all time in Travis Kelce. You're like, who do they really have? Like Xavier Worthy? Are we going to be talking about him in 10 years as one of the greatest wide receivers of all time? Doubt it. Rashee Rice started the season great, right? Started the season on fire. Is he going to be in conversations as one of the top 15 wide receivers of all time? Doubt it.
They got the D tackle though. I don't know his name top of my head.
Oh, Chris Jones, yeah.
Yeah, Jones. But I don't think he'll be no great though.
Yeah, I don't know. Like he's trending well, but like he's a little older. So, you know, I feel like he came on a little too late in the career, but you know, but it goes to show you like you've got like those Patriots rosters, they were just stacked. That's like the Bulls rosters in the 90s. It's like the Yankees roster in the 90s where it was like eventually you're just so stacked that it doesn't matter. And we know how it works. The Jordan rules are a real thing, right? Like you're going to get favorable calls, but you can't get all of the calls. And I think that's everybody's gripe with the Kansas City Chiefs, including my own. Like, I don't care about Taylor Swift. You know, like she's not on TV. And honestly, like I was talking with my girlfriend about this. I was like, people are so like pressed up about Taylor Swift. And I'm like, she's not on TV enough during football games to really bother me. You know, like I understand why they show her. She's like one of the most famous people in the entire world. I understand why they show her, but she's not on TV that much. She's on TV. I think Colin Cowherd did it. She was like, during an average game, she's on TV for like 10 seconds. And you're like, yeah, that shouldn't get anybody like that bricked up that Taylor Swift is on TV of like 10 seconds for the most famous person in the world. I don't care about her music. I can't I can't really name any of her songs. So you know what I mean? So it's like that's not my genre, but I'm also not a hater. So I'm not gonna say like she's not a good musician or she's not this, that, or the other, because like that's just not my style. Like obviously she's successful for a reason.
The problem is it's like I wasn't paying her no attention. I really forgot who she even was. And
Right.
then out the blue, was it like 4 years ago? They like Taylor Swift did, Taylor Swift that. I'm like, who is that? Like,
Right.
I ain't gonna try to be funny. I don't know no white girl, because you know how not one white girl I don't play her. They play Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, you know, people Pink and all them. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Oh, she got 100 million plus. I'm like, wait, because I don't even the most valiant girl don't play her. Like, I don't know nobody who listens to her.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Like my girlfriend listens to a lot of pop music, right? But
Yeah.
she's not a Taylor Swift fan at all. Like Taylor Swift is not in her playlist. Like it's just that's how it is. Like not a song that's featuring somebody, not a solo song. Like it's not there. Like I know of her songs because I play them at sporting events, right? But like that's it. Like that's the extent of my Taylor Swift knowledge. But, you know, like I said, circling back is I'm not a hater. I don't I don't care. I don't care enough either which way to like have strong feelings about it. But I do know that people are very, very strongly affected in a negative way for like the 10 seconds where they're like, hey, look, pan the camera. There's Taylor Swift. Like, that's
I think it's because they show her like it'll probably feel like 10 seconds, but the way like the social media is, it feel like it's like the whole game. Like every play, it be Taylor Swift. Like she's not on the field though,
right?
And I know she's not the only celebrity at the games. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, and that was my point. Is like Eminem's at all of the Lions home games. How many times do you see Eminem on screen?
Royce the 5'9" and all them.
Yeah, like you never see these people on screen. Like rarely, you know, like every now and then you'll see it. Like it's just it's a weird thing, and maybe it's like I could use Eminem as the example. Like, right, obviously, like I'm a huge Royce the 5'9" fan, being from Detroit, but like in terms of like overall popularity, like Eminem could rival Taylor Swift, right? But you don't see it. He's not on screen all the time. Why is he not on screen all the time? I feel like it's weird, and that's where you get the tinfoil hat wearers where they're like, oh, the NFL is going to favor the Chiefs because they want to see Taylor Swift holding the Lombardi trophy at the end. And you're like, thankfully that didn't happen last year, because I was like, man, people are going to have a meltdown. If we see Taylor Swift hold that Lombardi trophy, that's going to be like, yeah, people are going to melt down if that happens. But I don't think the Chiefs are going to win. I think the Eagles are going to win tonight.
This video might get posted tomorrow, but either way, I got the Eagles winning.
Yeah, I think.
Let's say that. Hold on, I ain't mean to cut you. Let's say that though. We gonna talk about the Super Bowl later. Let's jump into.
Let's do it.
What's your thoughts on the Lions? Because you're a big Detroit Lions fan. What's your thoughts on the Lions and the upcoming offseason?
They've got some things to address. Obviously, they're having two rookie coordinators is going to be interesting. Like we knew that Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson were going to leave. Like that just happens, right? Like it's not often where you can have that level of success and just keep the entire coaching staff in play. Like it's just it happens. I know fans are not happy with the way that Ben Johnson left. I was one of them. I was very vocal about that, like how Ben Johnson left, where it's like less than 48 hours of the biggest loss in your career, less than 48 hours, you were already signed with another team in the same division, and you had your coaching staff like already secured. Like that just doesn't happen overnight, right? Like so for me, like that really irritated me, because it's like how, like, you have kids, you've got a family, you have to now like enroll your kids in school, you got to look for a place to stay, like you've got to do all of these human things, right? Like And those things just take time. You don't just like when you've got kids, like you can't just move on a whim. Like you can't do those things. So it's like I didn't like how that was handled. And then what was it? Dennis Allen comes out and was like, yeah, Ben Johnson and I have been talking for weeks about this. And you're like, bro, you should have been focused. I'm not saying that he threw the game against the Commanders, right? But I'm like, how checked in can a human be when you have all of these real life elements and aspects going into it? Jahmyr Gibbs. How's Jahmyr Gibbs? Arguably a top 3, top 5 running back, right? How does he have 4 carries in the second half? He had 100 yards in the first half, only 4 carries. Like, come on. And one of those carries was an 8-yard touchdown run. So it's like, trick plays. I'm okay with the trick play, the Jameson Williams interception, like because trick plays are kind of what got the Lions where they are, right? Like that's part of their moniker is trick plays, fake punts, like being aggressive, going for it on 4th down. But having said that, like the offseason is going to be interesting. I don't know if we're going to see trick plays a lot next year. Like I just don't. I know we're going to see aggressiveness because Dan Campbell's still there, but they have some things to address. Aiden Hutchinson will be back. I know his rehab has gone well, but I'm always weary when it comes to leg injuries, knee injuries, broken legs and stuff, because like it's always susceptible. I've broken my right ankle 4 times. That's why I had to stop playing college basketball, right? Like eventually, like it just gets to the point where it's like, and maybe that's just, PTSD on my behalf, but it gets where I'm always a little bit weary when it comes to like lower leg injuries. Look at Nick Chubb. I don't know if he'll ever be the same. And that sucks because Nick Chubb was a freaking beast, Brad Holmes always drafts well. I'm not really concerned about the draft outside of like Broderick Martin, who's always been injured. He's drafted pretty well. I mean, look at, you're not always going to get an Amon-Ra St. Brown that falls to you in the 4th round, right? But he's been great at finding talent. Look at everything he did with the Rams, finding Aaron Donald, all of these. He knows what he's doing. He's good at that. My only thing that I'm not a fan of is he's not big on trading, and it's like, I feel like the Lions Super Bowl window is still open. It's probably open at least for next season and the following season. And then I think it's going to start to close a little bit. But I think you got to have, at some point, you need to have the F those draft picks mentality. And you need to go at, like Myles Garrett wants to be traded. Could you imagine a defensive line with Lee McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, and Myles Garrett? That's insane. Like your quarterback is done every time. You're not running the ball and your quarterback is going to be in the ground so often. Like you're just going to annihilate opposing offensive lines. So Kirby Joseph is there. Brian Branch is there. Like the secondary is fine, but they need pass rushing help. And you can't get much better than a Myles Garrett when it comes to pass rushing.
What about the linebacker core?
You know what? I like Jack Campbell. I think Alex Anzalone is a great defensive leader, a great vocal leader. I think he's solid enough. Little shaky in pass coverage, but like Jack Campbell he's great at run stuffing. And Derek Barnes will be back. Maybe. I mean, he's a free agent, but I'm assuming that he'll be back. I'm not really worried about the linebacking core. I feel like the linebackers at the end of the season got burned because they had nobody. Eventually, and that's my problem with the lack of wanting to trade, is eventually next man up is going to bite you in the ass because you're just going to run out of talent. When you're digging 3-4 practice squad level players, right? Like they're at that level for a reason. They're still good players, right? They're good enough to make it to the league. But when you're like 3rd string and deeper, like eventually you're at that level for a reason. You're not fast enough. You can't read. You can't read the offense that well, you're making the wrong adjustments, you're blowing coverages, and it's like eventually you're just going to get burned. And that's what happened to the linebackers, is that they were just getting burned. And it wasn't even blown coverages. If you go back and you watch like some of those watch the Commanders game, right? Like they were playing well. They were just slow as shit. Like they were just getting torched by running backs. They were getting torched by tight ends. And it's just like because they couldn't keep up. And it wasn't for like Aaron Glenn calling a terrible game. It was just these guys are just they're not good. And that's next man up is going to bite you in the butt every single time if that's the way that you want to play. So I'm not really concerned about the linebackers. I think you just need to Aiden Hutchinson was a top 5 pass rusher in terms of pressures up until like week 9. And he went down in week 5. Like that, if you get anybody that has that level of production playing alongside Aiden Hutchinson, you've got problems. You've got problems if you're an offensive coordinator, if you're an offensive line coach.
My problem with the offense side of the ball is Jared Goff. I think y'all need to trade him, or y'all need to get y'all a scrambling quarterback or somebody who could play like an improviser type quarterback. Because Jared Goff, he's one of them. You know how like the 2000 Ravens, what was his name? The quarterback they had. Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about. He like, you know his name?
Yeah. Flacco, right?
No, 2000s. When they had.
2000. Trent Dilfer?
Yeah, he like a Trent.
Okay.
I always compare him to Trent Dilfer. Like, dude, you got like a stacked team. You got Lewis with this guy Gibbs in the back. So, you know, the run game solid. You can pass it short, but I don't think he that dude. I think y'all, that's what y'all need to trade. What you feel about Jared Goff?
I think that Jared Goff is a great pocket passing quarterback. But like you said, he's not he doesn't improvise as much. And I think the days of the pocket passer are gone. You know, I think he's kind of like the last guard, or like that last group of just straight pocket passing quarterbacks. You know, you've got Goff, Stafford, Purdy to an extent, because Purdy doesn't really take off and run, but I think that's by design. Because
Minnesota quarterback.
Yeah.
Darnold.
I mean, but like if when JJ McCarthy comes back, he's gonna be he's gonna run. But yeah, like to that point is I think that position is kind of gone. It's transitioned into, you need to be able to pass the ball, but you also need to have some wheels to where you can roll out. Like that's why Jaden Daniels was so successful, right? Like that's why Lamar Jackson is always in the MVP conversation. That's why Josh Allen is always the top quarterback. You know, like look at Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick Mahomes is not running the ball nearly as much in these last like 2 seasons as he was previously. And then you look at his stats and he's like not that great at just being a pocket passer, right? Like look at his stats, look at the fall off. Like when he's not running the ball as much, you know, like he's not leading the league in interceptions, but he's got a lot more interceptions than he normally does as just being a pocket presence. So it's
he like to do that scramble. He be doing the most sometimes. He like to do that. I just run to the side throw. He one of them kind of quarterback. Like he got to run to get. I guess that's how he throw.
Yeah, extending the plays, and then, or in some cases, you know, like waiting until the very last second to drop when a defensive player is already in the midst of tackling, so he can get get one of those penalties that people love to roughing the passer, and you're like, dude, guy's already being held on to by the defender. Like, how is this roughing the passer?
You know that's
like,
it's crazy. You know that's a Brady rule, though, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That goes back to the Brady days. Man, you could not. It was Peyton, Aaron Rodgers, and Brady. It was like was the main 3. You could not touch. Man, as soon as you breathe on them, like.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, Cam Newton could get annihilated, and it's totally okay. And it's totally okay by the referees.
They were doing Cam dirty, man.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. Totally agree. So you don't think do you think Jared Goff is holding the Lions back, or do you think that they actually could win with him if they could protect him better?
I think y'all gonna need to get either a super speed receiver or a top what they call them possession. I can't talk possession receiver. Somebody who can like just catch the ball that can't run, but you already know there's a guaranteed catch with them. Because Jared Goff, I don't feel like his arm power is kind of iffy sometimes. It's like he be overthrowing, underthrowing. It's like you need them quarterback to change the play. I don't feel like he can change play. I feel like he one of them like type court like Trent Dilfer. Whatever play call, he just go with it. Like I don't think he can improvise a lot. I think it's like you playing Madden, you don't change the play, you just go with it. That's him. He don't. I'm not saying he can't read the defense. I just when I watch him play, I just don't see him adjusting much. It's like he just whatever's called, go with. Now, I don't know. That's how Dan Campbell get down. That's how he goes.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like y'all just need. I think if y'all do keep him, y'all need a backup quarterback who can run and who got a little arrogance to him. Like, let me change this real quick. Y'all just because Detroit, you know how Detroit always did. Even when they was trash like the Browns, y'all always had that grit. But Matthew Stafford just be throwing up whatever. He'll change the whole play. Y'all need
Brett
one
Favre.
of them. Yeah, y'all need one of them, man.
I think I feel like Hendon Hooker is that kind of player. Because he was like that in Tennessee. Obviously, blew out his knee. But I feel like he's that kind of player. He was like in college, if you watch any game film on him, that's how he was. He was very much like a Jaden Daniels type. Except he's more built like Josh Allen. So I guess Josh Allen would be a better comparison. Because Josh Allen's also not the most accurate passer, but he's also not afraid to have designed runs. Yeah. Like Jared Goff has 0 designed runs. He's whether it's Ben Johnson, it doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. There are 0 designed runs for Jared Goff. So you know that there's either going to be a handoff, it's going to be a check down, or it's going to be some level of pass, whether it's a slant, a post, an out, whatever. But you know that it's going to be kind of vanilla unless it's a trick play. There's no designed runs, where I think Hendon Hooker has that. We just have no idea how Hendon Hooker is going to play. Like, we have no idea how he's going to turn out in terms of being an NFL quarterback. So, and I feel like I think that's also kind of stymieing the Lions, where it's like, okay, Jared Goff, because Jared Goff had an MVP conversation season. Obviously, MVP is a regular season award. He was passing, touchdowns, lack of turnovers. Like, he was in that conversation of having MVP, like just like Baker Mayfield, right? Like, but you have these quarterbacks that just don't get, I guess, the respect that they deserve, because face it, the MVP award it's a quarterback award, and it shouldn't be, because and we could talk about this later, because Saquon should have been the MVP, hands down.
0 first place votes.
It's ridiculous, and screw it. We'll jump into that real quick. Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts is he's the prototypical quarterback that we're looking for, right? Uh-huh. Where Jalen Hurts was asked this year passing the ball.
You think so?
He was not good this season passing the ball. Like, if you look at his stats, like, he was a mid-range quarterback in terms of passing yards, touchdown passes. He had a decent season because of what he was doing on the grounds. Uh-huh. The only reason the Eagles are where they are is because Saquon Barkley had an out-of-this-world season, which, if to Emmanuel Acho's point, where it's like, it's not the greatest player of this, it's not the greatest season. It's the most valuable season. Well, you take away the 2,000 yards that Saquon Barkley had on the ground. Where are the Eagles? Are the Eagles sitting in Cancun right now, or are the Eagles getting ready to play at the Super Bowl?
He had 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Okay,
Yeah, that's not good for a caliber for a quarterback that is the caliber of a Jalen Hurts. That is not a good season.
yeah. Previous season he had 39. I'm around 3,900 yards, 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Nah, that ain't
Mm.
good. That ain't good. You might be on to something.
I really think that Saquon, like I'm willing to die on that hill that Saquon Barkley should have gotten the MVP this year.
Jalen,
Honestly.
though, I think Jalen can win close games, and because
Mhm.
I think a lot of that now that I'm looking at his numbers, him getting them 800 yards a season of running is what be saving him.
Yeah.
But that 23-15, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and to be fair, like in 2020, I was very high on Jalen Hurts. Like, I couldn't believe that he fell to where he fell.
Yeah,
I remember getting clowned so hard from other fellow writers and stuff. Where I was like, that's the steal of the draft. 2020, I was like, Jalen Hurts falling to the second round to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a steal. And I just remember so many people were like, "You're an idiot." Like, whatever. Like, it's not. He's not going to be great. And I'm like, well, I mean, he's starting quarterback for his second Super Bowl. Like, I don't know how you are, but I don't think I hate the wins and losses are a quarterback stat. I don't think that they are, because football is such a team game. No,
yeah.
I think you can adversely affect whether you win or lose, but I don't think it solely falls. It doesn't solely fall on the quarterback. Like look at the year Matthew Stafford went to the Pro Bowl with the Detroit Lions. 5,000 yards, he had 45 touchdowns, I think. And they still finished 7-9 that season, I believe.
Horrible.
And you're like, what more can that quarterback do? If you're passing over 5,000 yards, if you've thrown more than 40 touchdowns, and I think he had 8 interceptions that season, if you're putting up those numbers and you still have a team that's under 500, that's not on you. That is my poster child for wins and losses are not a quarterback stat.
Yeah, I think all the running backs I heard, he was just throwing it. Exactly, he was just throwing it up to Calvin Megatron.
Yeah.
He was just
Yep.
throwing it. I mean, but Calvin
Yeah.
Johnson was on ESPN highlight every. I think they had a top 10 just for him.
He was a freak. Yeah, I mean, it was fun watching Calvin Johnson play, man, and like he did it the right way, where he wasn't complaining. He wasn't a diva. Like that's the gift and the curse of wide receivers, right? Like the diva mentality, because that's also entertaining.
I think he needed to be a ho because that team was so horrible. I would ask for a trade. That's just me though. He probably was making a lot of money though because he was the mega star, but no, I would have to go, man.
I'm with you. I'm with you, man.
Let's go ahead and move on to your other team. I don't even like Baker, but as y'all know, Detroit went 15-3 this year, so we know they good in the off season. But another team, the Buccaneers, no, they went 15-2. The Buccaneers, NFC South, they went 10-7. What you feel? What's your thoughts on the season and the off season for the Bucs?
I mean, it's basically where I feel like the Bucs are going to be. I feel like the Bucs live in that 10-7. I feel like that's where they are. I feel like this coming season though, it could be vastly different. They need a lot of help on defense. They need a pass rush. They need better linebackers, especially if Levante David decides to hang it up and retire.
Mm-hmm.
They need better play out of their secondary as well. Antoine Winfield is one of the top safeties in the league. He was in and out with injuries, and he never really. I don't think we ever really saw him get to the Antoine Winfield Jr. level that we expected. I also feel like Zion McCollum and Christian Izien, like they started the season pretty hot, but then I think they started too hot. Started feeling themselves a little bit too much. That's my opinion on them, because like they started the season and they were the top secondary in the NFL after like through the first, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks. And then they kind of slowly fell off. Then they came back. I mean, if you give Kirk Cousins in that Thursday night game had a career game, more than 500. If you're allowing Kirk Cousins, who I think has been in the league for 12 or 13 years, if a guy at that stage of his career, in the twilight of his career, is having a career game, there's something wrong with your defense. Because it's not like these are not the Atlanta Falcons that have Julio Jones and Roddy White. They've got Drake London, an unused Kyle Pitts. Like, this is not an Atlanta Falcons team to where you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense why he passed for over 500 yards. Like that's so the defense is a huge question mark at every level for me. Honestly, like Todd Bowles as a defensive coach. Actually, I'm going to tie this into it because Todd Bowles is a super polarizing coach where people either love him or they hate him, and there's like no in between. I think Todd Bowles is a good head coach, but he's not the right guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think we've seen the peak. We've seen the maximum area that Bowles can get this team. Win a division, that's great. Get it first, second round playoffs, great, and then that's it. Like, they're not getting beyond that. Kind of like Jim Caldwell with the Lions, right? Where Jim Caldwell never had a season below 500 with the Lions. He had winning seasons all 3 years, got to the playoffs, but that was it. Like, he couldn't get them over that hump, and I think that's where Todd Bowles is. The Buccaneers have one of the youngest teams in the NFL.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, the Buccaneers, I think they're top. I think they're the second or third youngest, right? But my point is, like, Todd Bowles makes a lot of coaching errors. There'll be like games where like he used 2 of his 6 timeouts the entire game. Or like when they lost to the Chiefs, right? Like, why would you not go for the win? Why would you leave a coin toss up to see, like, your defense can't stop people, and it's like when you have such a young team, you can't have a team that's winning at like in spite of their coach making errors. You need to have a coach that is solid. He doesn't need to be a risk taker, doesn't need to be doing any of that stuff, but like there should be decisions that are made by the coach that put you in positions to win. And Todd Bowles just doesn't do that. And when you have a young team, they're not able to overcome those coaching missteps. And I think that's where you are with Todd Bowles as the head coach and the defensive coordinator. Like, he was a great defensive coordinator when Bruce Arians was running the team as the head coach. And I don't feel he doesn't have the fire that you need. I've been in the locker room before, like I've been in press conferences. I've talked to Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, great man, great, like I said, good head coach, but he's not the right guy, in my opinion, to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a Super Bowl. Because on offense, I know you're not a Baker guy. I think the Buccaneers have an offense that can get them to a Super Bowl. Look at look at where the Buccaneers finished. They were a top 5 running team, top 5 passing team. Missed Godwin basically the whole year. Missed Mike Evans for 4 straight weeks. In conjunction with Godwin being out. Not really knowing which way they were going to pivot for running back because they had Rashad White, they had Bucky Irving, and Sean Tucker. Not really sure which way they were going to turn. And then they finished the season as one of the top offenses in the league. And I don't think that's honestly that's not Liam Cohen was a good offensive coordinator. I know Buccaneers fans are super salty about Liam Cohen, about how, I don't know if you were following that at all, but like the Buccaneers offered Liam Cohen to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in NFL history. He verbally agreed to that contract and then secretly flew off to Jacksonville to interview for their head coaching spot. And was not responsive to didn't sign the actual contract, but verbally agreed to it with the Buccaneers, and then was MIA. Wasn't answering calls, texts, emails, nothing, because he was secretly in Jacksonville interviewing for the head coach with the Jaguars.
Yeah,
so I understand. Yeah. And then signed it. And like, I understand why Buccaneers fans are super salty about it. And like, look at all of the moves he's tried to make with the Jags. Like the Jags have tried to interview the assistant general manager that the Bucks have. The Bucks rejected it. All of these positions, they're like, hey, can we interview them? And they're like, no, absolutely not. We are doing you no favors. Like, because the way that you handled it was so shady. But back to my point is like Liam Cohen was a good offensive coordinator, but I don't think he wasn't doing anything like out of this world. The talent is there. Mike Evans, honestly, I think when he retires is probably a top 12 wide receiver of all time. So I look at the numbers that he's done, and people will go, yeah, but he had Tom Brady. And you're like, yeah, but who did he have before that?
He was doing that way. Anything, he had better numbers before Brady. Like, y'all need
exactly. But, you know, the media didn't follow the Buccaneers before Tom Brady. That was the Tom Brady effect, because you're like, yeah, he was putting up these numbers with Mike Glennon, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, with Jameis Winston. You know, he's putting them up with Baker. He put them up with Brady. Like, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He was doing it. You know, he was doing the thing with, regardless of who the quarterback is. So I think the offense is fine. Bucky Irving, in my opinion, especially in the latter half of the season, top 10 running back in the NFL. He led the league in yards after contact, which is pretty remarkable.
I got a hot take on Bucks. It's like, if y'all never got Brady, cause we know how the league is with Brady. Y'all know it was some cheating. I'm gonna get I'm doing. That's why I call it a hot take. We all know Brady was winning. Like, that's why Gronk. I knew that was when Super Bowl when Gronk came back. Gronk only came because he knew that was one. You know how they do. Yep. So it's like now the Buccaneers are back in realistic mode, I call it. Now y'all want to go back to the Brady status. But if you look before Brady, the year before, either I don't know if y'all made the playoffs or y'all barely made it. Like, Buccaneers was not.
Yeah.
Y'all believed in the hype. Let's just call it it. Y'all believe in the Brady hype. Even though he was like 50 years old. And now that one season is over with, y'all still think y'all on Super Bowl status. Like, y'all basically, if anything, y'all went back down to reality. Because all them players only came. Antonio Brown and Gronk, they only came for that 1 year. All them top defensive players was there for 1 season, then they left. That's it. So now all of a sudden, why Jacksonville want all Buccaneers people? Like, Jacksonville so trash. They got their own problems they need. Like, get rid of Trevor Lawrence, because no. But anyway, Urban Meyer's situation, kicking those with on that Draymond Green, but you know,
right?
Anyway, like, now Todd Bowles situation, I'm gonna give him about another year.
Yeah, this has to be the make or break year for him. Like, they either. Yeah,
I'm gonna give him like another year. Now, if he don't do nothing with another year, then you can move on from. But come on now, like, y'all acting like y'all back on Brady stats. Like, come on, Buccaneers fans, y'all know, that was the one and done. That's like one and done type thing. The league was like, okay, we gotta make Brady look good, so let's have him win this Super Bowl.
And
like,
Super Bowl
at
home. Yeah, and a Super Bowl at home. Because that was the first. That was the Buccaneers hosted the Super Bowl that year too. So,
come on now.
So I was like, yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think that you know, I'm not I don't believe that the NFL is scripted per se. You know, regardless of Arian Foster telling us that all those years ago.
I don't think it's scripted. I think they be rigged games, but
I think I feel like there's stories to tell. I think I'll say it that way. I think the league likes the drama, like WWE, right? They want the drama, they want the storyline.
Heavy.
Right, yeah. So like, but I don't think it's fully rigged. I don't think it's, you know, like, I don't think referees maybe they are, right? Maybe there's some referees that are, you know, we talked about this off the air. Like, maybe there's some referees that are like Tim Donaghy. Right, where they're making money on the side, betting on these games that they are involved in. Because some of these calls, and it's not even just Chiefs related, right? But some of these calls are just so egregious. Do you remember the Saints and the Rams game in the NFC
Pass
Conference
interference?
Championship.
The pass
Yeah,
interference? Yeah, I remember that. I remember
yeah,
that.
and like
That call.
that. Like, I mean, you can't get much more egregious than that call, right? Like that's got to be like a public enemy number one in terms of, yeah, no, the NFL is rigged for those people that say that. Like, that's got to be one of the top plays that people talk about and then and they show. But like, yeah, so I don't think the NFL is. I'm not gonna say it's rigged, but I do know that like Brady coming to Tampa, first season in Tampa, Super Bowl in Tampa, that makes for one hell of a storyline. That makes for one hell of a, hey, we're finally gonna fill the stadium. Like, it's not gonna be completely full. We're coming off of COVID. We want a good story, et cetera, et cetera. So like, maybe and maybe it's just a perfect storm. Maybe it was because the Bucs team was stacked in 2020. That team was absolutely stacked. Brady did his best LeBron James to get all of the soldiers in line to come and join the team. They just had the salary cap. They were able to do it. It sucks that Jameis Winston got ostracized essentially. He came off of that 5,000 yard, the 5,000 yard 30 for 30 season, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. But I still thought that season was good enough to get Jameis Winston another shot. To be honest, like it's hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
had
turned.
eye surgery.
Yeah, and then like just to like kind of throw him to the wolves, like, and he signed such a small contract with New Orleans. He got like he signed like a $3 million contract with New Orleans, something super small. And like that whole situation, he didn't do himself any favors because his agent came out and was like, yeah, he wants 30 million a year. And like, we knew that wasn't true, but he never publicly said that. He never publicly denied it either.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is where like, because I'm thinking like, if I'm Jameis and Tom Brady is coming, and I am a good quarterback. I'm able to throw for 5,000 yards. I'm able to put up 30 touchdowns. I could learn from him. Right? Like that to me, if I'm like, that's why I would have denied that, because Tom Brady's coming. Imagine already being, in terms of a lot of quarterback metrics, imagine being like a top 12 quarterback in the league like Jameis was, for completion percentage, passing yards, touchdowns, rushing yards, etc. Right? Imagine being a top 12 quarterback, taking a smaller contract, and then sitting behind Tom Brady. I feel like that's just.
I wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't have? No?
I wouldn't do it because, well, we know Jameis don't care about no rings, and I'm not taking no less money should behind no dude that's like 50 years old. I don't care. We got the most stacked thing. So, yeah, some players who chasing rings, yeah, just to say they got Super Bowl ring. I don't think Jamie's that tight. I don't think he really care about no Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, but I mean, he took less money to sit behind Drew Brees. It's kind of the same thing. Like he sat behind Drew Brees in his first season in New Orleans.
I think some of that. I think his agent.
I think his agent is. Yeah, he needs a new agent.
I think his agent was doing the most. Like.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think you're right on that. And I mean, like, look at all the crap he's doing in New Orleans this week. Like I don't know if you've been following him on social media, but like Jameis, he has a very good lucrative career in broadcasting when he decides he wants to retire. Like he's like, dude's entertaining as hell. Like you guys just got the.
He be confusing me sometimes. I'll be like, James, what are you saying? Like I get what I know. It's like you could tell he be taking media training. It's like, dude, like you getting to the point, but it's like you gotta go all the way around the world. Like, dude, just get to it. Like I get what you're saying, but dang, bro, speed up.
No, I'm with you on that. I think
I ain't mad you educated, but come on, man, you gotta sometimes get to a point. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. What did you? How did you feel about Jameis in his time in Cleveland?
to be honest with you, I quit watching the Browns after like we lost like 3 games in a row, so it was like early on. I'm like, yeah, we about to trash. Then Miles Garrett, I could already tell he was out the door. Mentally, you could tell he was gone. Like, I'm done. Nick Chubb injured.
Yeah.
Alleged. I don't think he really all that injured. And Deshaun Watson, we ain't gonna speak on that. The alleged what he did. It's funny because Justin Tucker doing the same thing. Ain't nobody talking about him, but
Nope.
alleged with him too.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
what else? It was just like the
This is Darius
defense.
Smith getting traded.
We had the best secondary in the league, and I was like, I don't know. They got if everybody. Can you not? I always say when teams be good, but they got a lot of media hype. The Chiefs gonna go through this too. When their agents get to see all them dollar signs and endorsements coming, there be a lot of backstage politics going on.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gonna want the max contract.
Yeah.
Okay. So when this started to happen, you could tell based off how dudes play on the field when the contract negotiations start. Then dudes get to slacking or they feel like they got guaranteed coming, so now they taking plays off or those just be on some trade. Like you can just tell. It's like when everybody just making normal money. I don't even like to count people's pockets. That ain't how I get down. But when they make everybody got like a guarantee, based on the tax whatever. Teams be balling. And as soon as they get the route like the Chiefs doing all that winning, the 49ers went through this too. They get doing all the winning. Everybody getting endorsements, commercial chicks, side chicks talking.
Yeah.
They just talking. They mamas talking, cousins. They got Nike, Adidas. They got Amazon hitting them up. That's when dudes probably was making $5 million. Now they want 35. They was making 35. They want 100. You know how they do. They just.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it, but some of y'all do not be worth that. Like,
no.
Some of y'all be like acting like y'all like $100 million man. Y'all like 10 mil dudes. Like y'all is not that dude. Like y'all just on stacked teams.
Yep.
So,
not only that, but you also have like the big markets, right? Like that's what's weird about the NFL. Because you think about like big markets, right? Where it's like you're New York, Chicago, LA, right? Those are your top 3 markets. And just in the US in general. The Giants suck. Jets suck. Chargers and Rams are And then the Bears, you're like, oh yeah, no, the Bears have been bad for a long time. Look at baseball. Yankees are good. Mets are good. Dodgers are good. Angels are good. And it's weird because it's like same thing in the NHL. Those teams, all of the big market teams are good. Same thing. Baseball, basketball is kind of hit or miss. Like the Knicks are finally starting to get better, right? But it's like the NFL is the only sport where you can get those big dollars, those advertising dollars and the marketing deals, and you can get all of that. So you would assume that like these big market teams would be better, but they're not, and it's weird because like that's how a lot of these athletes make the most money, especially in the NFL. Is you get it from your endorsement deals. You get it from your TV commercials. That's why you would see Baker Mayfield on the Progressive commercials all the time, right? Because like that's where he's getting a lot of his money because you don't have these big guaranteed contracts in the NFL unless you're like a Deshaun Watson, which
yeah.
I mean, yeah, we won't speak on it like you said, but like there's not a single player in the history of the NFL that's worth a guaranteed $200 million. And that period. Like, especially one coming off of an injury. But like, so it's weird because like when, like what you were saying, like these like players have a good season, they start feeling themselves and then they want these bigger contracts. And you're like, yeah, but if you have a better agent, you can get that money. And you can get that money even and then some if you are a marketable person. right?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of these players just have no personality. They're
At
not
all.
marketable, and it's like you're just a really good football player, right? Like have a little personality. Like get in an insurance commercial, right? Like who in the hell thought that Andy Reid was like a giant goofball? I never thought that he was until like you see him in these State Farm commercials, right? And you're like, I had no idea Andy Reid was that funny. But he's like, imagine if he was like this when he was in Philly, which is a much larger market than Kansas City, right? Like Philly went to the Super Bowl when they had T.O. and McNabb.
I'm actually glad he had that personality in Philly. He's not gonna make it, man.
But it's like, so it's weird because like you could put together these solid teams in the NFL and like in a bigger if you're in a bigger market, like Tampa's a small market. That's why like players were kind of like one and done. Like, these over the top personality players. They were lucky like they had Warren Sapp, right? But that was because they drafted him.
Mm.
Tom Brady, same thing. Tom Brady, it's hard to deny like when you're in a conversation of being a GOAT, it doesn't matter like what team you're on. You could be on a team from Wyoming if Wyoming had an NFL team, right? And you're still going to get endorsement deals. You're still going to be on commercials and such. But it's like it's weird that it's weird that GMs also don't try to leverage that so you can stack your teams better. Yeah, look, we're going to sign you a 3-year deal. It's going to be like a 3-year, 120 mil, 30 million guaranteed, right? These are all your upsides. Hit these metrics, and now you're hitting bonuses, you're hitting multipliers. But like a lot of companies are moving their headquarters to Detroit. A lot of things are happening in Detroit. So like if you're Brad Holmes, you're like, yeah, you have all of these endorsement deals that are potential. We've got, what did the Lions have? 7 nationally televised primetime games last season. So you're like, you have all of these options, right? So like if you're the Detroit Lions and you have, I think, the 8th most cap space going into the season, leverage all of that. Like, yeah, these players, Max Crosby, perfect example, grew up in Detroit. How many times on different podcasts does he say, grew up a Lions fan, would love to play for the Lions if I didn't play for the Raiders? And I'm not saying like take a hometown discount because that's not always a thing. But if you're a smart agent and you're a smart business mind for an agent and a player, look at them. Look at those options. Look at like, how do I leverage myself? And I think podcasting has kind of taken its own spin on things, right? Where like everybody's got a podcast now. Like players too. And I think that it's starting to leverage like that a little bit, but you're still not really doing endorsement deals. Like outside of the Kelsey brothers, how many faces that are not on Wheaties boxes are you seeing cereal? You know what I mean? Like little things like that, where it's like Kellogg's is it Kellogg's or General Mills? I know the cereals that are in it, but like it's one of those two. But like that's a prime example of making yourself marketable and profitable outside of the game of football. So I think you can stack your teams very well like that if you're leveraging that kind of stuff. But I don't think people see it like that yet. Like the NIL deals, right? Like all of these, like some of these bum ass schools are getting these high end players, and it's because they're able to pay and leverage your name, image, and likeness. And I feel like that's what we also need to be doing in the NFL is like is honing in on that. And like Richard Sherman, it makes a lot of money on his podcast, right? But he wasn't doing endorsements when he was in the NFL. He could have been, and he should have been. He's got an outgoing personality. He's very vocal, like, you know what I mean? But all of these players waited until after they retired for the most part to get like over the top endorsement deals. And I think that's where teams are just missing the buck. Sell it.
So final talk on football before we get to basketball. Who you got winning the Super Bowl?
I think that man, I want the Eagles to win. Like I'm pulling for the Eagles. But a lot of it depends on Jalen Hurts. You know, we talked about it earlier. Like he's not had a great season. Saquon Barkley's been playing out of this world, but if you shut down Saquon Barkley, which the Chiefs have been a very successful defense in stopping the run this year. If the Chiefs can stop Saquon, I think the Chiefs are going to win the game and they're going to get the 3-peat, regardless of officiating or anything like that. I think that the Chiefs are very good at keeping games close. Like, look at how many of their wins. Like, what are they? Undefeated in one-score games? Like 17-0 in the last 17 games, or it's one score? Something crazy like that. And you're like, yeah, you keep it close. And look, and this is where people have the officiating issue. Because if you're 17-0 in one-score games, people are going to nitpick. They're going to nitpick the officiating. Well, what about that missed hold? Well, what about this missed call? What about that call, that phantom call? Like that's when you start getting into the nitpicking of officiating, because the games are so close that there's not room for human error. But I guess to put a bow on it, I think the Chiefs are probably going to win tonight. Because I think the Eagles offense relies too heavily on Saquon Barkley. And they're too one-dimensional, which is crazy to say because they have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. But I think the Eagles offense this season has been too one-dimensional for the Chiefs to not stop them and not get the dub.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Eagles. And, they're gonna be going against the rest. But let's go ahead and get into this last topic. We're going to the NBA. He a Lakers fan, so I expect him to be doing a lot of trash talking. We gonna see with Danny. I'm just glad Dan Gilbert ain't trading nobody on Cleveland. Well, he traded for DeAndre Hunter. I like that trade, but okay. So the Lakers. I'm gonna go ahead and get a quick breakdown. I'm gonna let you go.
Man,
they traded the white boy. What's his name? Connect. Dan, what's his name? Yeah, dude, number 4. Y'all know him. They tried to trade him for Mark Williams.
Yep.
Allegedly, Adam Silver put the block on it. He did the what's his name? What's the commissioner before him? What's his name?
David Stern.
With the Chris Paul trade, he was out of shape. Y'all know how they roll. Anyway, so they blocked that. And then they traded AD, who was dropping 40. They traded him for Luka. And they kept Bronny. We know why. So basically you have LeBron, Luka, and they kept the Connect dude. How do you say his name? They call him Connect, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
no, you're good.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask you, Danny, since you were Lakers head, what you feel about them trades? What you feel about the Lakers?
Obviously, Luka is a generational talent, right? Like anytime you can get somebody like a Luka Doncic on your team, like that's a dub. That's a huge win for your team. The problem I have, and I said I tweeted this immediately after, because I was on the same boat where people were like, did Shams get hacked? Like, what do you mean the Lakers? What do you mean not what do you mean the Lakers traded AD? Is what do you mean the Mavericks traded Luka?
Oh, crazy.
Right? That's the crazy part for me. But it's January 23rd. Anthony Davis said, we can be a contender if we get a center. Right? So you make that trade, you get Luka, that's great. I literally looked at it like, okay, so now we need a center and a power forward.
A real power forward, because LeBron can't, no.
Yeah, like, LeBron was able to do that when he was in Miami, but he was also a hell of a lot younger when he was in Miami.
Yeah, way bigger.
Bigger, younger, stronger, faster, all of that. And it's like, I don't know what was going on in Rob Pelinka's head too. Like, this is where it's hard, is like, how do you say no to getting a player like Luka? Right? Like if Dallas calls me and says, "Hey, we're interested in giving you Luca, but we want Anthony Davis and crypto stuff," I'm either trying to get some free shit, or it's like, or somebody along the lines was like, "Hey, this is something that you should look into. If you got some extra money, throw in a few bucks." So don't put too much weight in that. But yeah, if you want to talk video games or sports or anything, I'm your guy. So.
All right, man. It's been TJ McKinley Podcast, episode 27. We say what we want, how you want, wherever you want. Y'all go ahead and follow my man Danny. Go ahead and follow me on TikTok, Instagram, definitely YouTube. Make sure y'all hit the like and subscribe button. Thank y'all for watching. Y'all have a nice day.